You...
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Seriously Loco, the Seriously Crazy fan podcast for El Paso Locomotive FC. I'm Phil Bucky, and I'm joined tonight by Mika Burrell. Mika is the eve of the USL season, maybe, or maybe not. But how are you?
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly for entertainment purposes only. I'm good, Phil. I'm good. Yeah, I guess we will see if the entire reason why this podcast exists will go forward this weekend. Yeah, season 8. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
We've been at it for a minute, and I guess we'll just say that we regret to not be bringing you an episode with Junior Gonzalez, the manager. Obviously quite a bit going on headquarters-wise with USL right now, but we weren't able to make it happen with the boss. Hopefully we'll be able to have him on after the season gets going, and we'll be able to talk about some results and stuff. But the elephant in the room, we'll talk about, obviously, Locomotive season and a look ahead. We'll kind of review where we think the roster is sitting at, and how we felt about the off season from a Locomotive perspective. And we'll look ahead to Colorado Springs at the weekend, because hopefully that does happen. But first, and probably most importantly, the elephant in the room is the USL Championship, and, well, really USL, I guess, as a whole, and the USL Players Association have still, as of right this second, time stamping this, 9:45 p.m. Eastern time on March 5th, there is not a collective bargaining agreement in place between the Players Association and the league. And we've got some reporting from Jeff Rueter in The Guardian today that we'll be able to talk about a little bit. But I think first and foremost, just to kind of recap the situation, Mika, we've got this lack of ability to come to a collective bargaining agreement so far, and the Players Association has voted to authorize a strike. But as our resident legal expert, I think it's important to maybe talk to the fans about the fact that while the Players Association as a union has voted to authorize a strike, they are not yet on strike.
Right, yeah. I mean, full disclosure, I am not a labor and employment attorney. That's
not legal advice.
Not legal advice, simply commentary. Yes, the players, the union members have authorized a strike. Doesn't mean they are on strike. So basically, my understanding is like they're basically letting like the committee that could call a strike say you have that authority to do that. As we speak, that has not come to pass, but I do think the gloves are coming off as far as the narrative is concerned, if you will, with, Jeff Rueter's piece coming out and some of the things that the league shared with the players, and then the Players Association's response to that, pretty strong words there, calling it union busting, so it's getting a little spicy, and one wonders if we are going to see USL Championship football tomorrow, because we're less than 24 hours away from Lexington hosting Louisville.
I believe you're right.
Yeah. So in a big derby match, big opener, as it's supposed to be a big opener, tons of storylines there, but it's being overshadowed, unfortunately, by this labor dispute. And I think if you look at social media, at least, by and large, from what I can tell, most people are on the players' side and saying, stand up for standards. Like they need basic health insurance, pay raises, etc. There's so many issues at play here, and we could delve into some of those if we want. But yeah, it's been an extraordinary day today as far as the labor dispute is concerned, and there's been some really good reporting, especially by Jeff. So
yeah, Jeff, and for those who remember Jeff is a friend of the show, as it said, but he's been on previously, and he did some reporting for The Guardian. Most will probably remember him from his time at The Athletic, if not before that, but Jeff now plying his trade for The Guardian. To catch everybody up to speed in terms of, like, for those who are kind of like, what's the gap remaining between, like, what the players are asking for and what the league wants in the agreement. there have been a lot of concessions, and the league's been talking about, hey, we've made concessions on minimum salary, we've made concessions on guaranteed healthcare, we've made concessions on not including other sort of expenses in compensation, and it's only going to be housing and actual wages, and increased standards around travel, around basically like having to book better travel accommodations for trips that are longer than 400 miles, and not being able to stick players in basic economy, from Hartford to Sacramento type deal. So a lot of that, and to catch people up, and this is just from some like sources close to the Players Association, the things that it seems like the Players Association is still holding out for, and why they are doing, I would call this, maybe at the risk of being cynical, like a bit of brinksmanship on both parts of who's going to blink, and like, is someone willing to take this all the way to actually going on strike? I guess we'll find out. But the stuff that they are holding out for is the clubs have promised equivalent healthcare plans, like guaranteed equivalent healthcare plans to front office employees. And the Players Association is holding out for like premium, like better healthcare plans, basically saying like, our job is inherently more physical and all of that stuff. Like, we're far more likely to need to utilize health insurance. So that I think that's part of it there. They want to eliminate basically a loophole for entry level contracts to the league that could be below the league minimum. They want to they want the minimum to be the absolute floor. They're very close apparently on minimum compensation. USL PA is trying to go to like 42,000. USL's at 40 right now. The Players Association wants the league to be able to guarantee healthcare coverage and housing costs for players who are on a team when it folds unexpectedly. And then there's some like licensing compensation stuff, and image and likeness rights, that sort of stuff that they're not that far away on. So those are like the sticking points as I understand them at the moment between the Players Association and the league. It doesn't seem impossible to overcome that gap, and the reality of like any of this sort of business being done in short amounts of time, like anything regarding contracts and this level of like collective bargaining, it's tough to make it happen quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame. I think that I don't want to say that they've left it this late, because I do think that there has been work going on behind the scenes, although maybe not to the pace that the Players Association would like, or what have you. But yeah, the health insurance one is really interesting to me. My understanding is, Phil, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the league has offered like, well, we'll give you the health insurance that everyone at the club gets, like the front office, whereas the Players Association is saying, no, we should all as a union have the same coverage regardless of club, which I do see the merits of that and like the benefit of that. I just wonder practically, like, how do you, I mean, obviously it must be possible if they're even asking for it, right? But it just is interesting to me, like in the federation that we live in, right? Like the laws are so different across state lines and coverages, etc. So I'm sure there's a way to do it. I mean, it's just simply not my forte, of course, but I do find that kind of interesting. And yeah, I would hope that's, if that piece can maybe be resolved, then we'll see some football this weekend, right? Because that seems like it's been a big one. But I mean, what do you make of kind of those issues that they're holding out on, and where do you see a potential maybe for compromise based on what you've heard and kind of just your own thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think I'll be honest, I'm not really sure, aside from those understanding sort of those gaps. I don't know that I can see between the lines of like what the Players Association is thinking in terms of how, like, which of those they will strike for. Mm-hmm. That's I think like the real question here is, is that level of healthcare coverage or the basically like club collapse protection stuff, is it enough to go strike over. And I think that's where right now there's a little bit of a game being played like on both sides in terms of like what would the owners be willing to tell the players no for and risk a strike over versus what are the players saying, if we don't get this, we will, like, it will lead to a strike. And it would be very interesting to know from the people in the room, like what the tone of those conversations is, because I think that would be very revealing. Because I'm sure that in this type of negotiation, it feels like being very open about kind of where the red lines are versus what's maybe more flexible. It would be important if your goal is like playing this season.
Sure. Yeah. And from my perspective, like I would almost be shocked if that black swan of information, if you will, like that one thing that's like, we don't get this and we're going to strike. I would be shocked if they shared that, because that seems like a lot of leverage.
Sure.
But at the same time, maybe you do share that and hope that gets you somewhere. I don't know, but we are running out of time, you know? I mean, some lawyer somewhere is real miserable tonight.
Yeah.
Several lawyers.
Like, prayers up for both the lawyers on both sides who have no actual role they're playing in this, aside from they have to be in the meetings and on the calls, and
and they're not going home. Like,
yeah.
I mean, what about this, quite frankly, extraordinary email from I was going to say from the USL Championship, but this is something that I noticed afterwards. It's from USL Championship clubs and USL HQ.
Yeah.
So what do we make of this? I mean, I guess let's get more into Jeff's piece, which is, we'll link it. Let's link it in the show notes because it's excellent.
Yeah, for sure. I'll make a point to do that. The actual like the piece itself outlines the fact that basically on Wednesday evening, I guess it becomes a little bit clear that USL HQ and the clubs began to get at least frightened enough of a strike that they felt like they needed to shoot their shot. So they sent an email to every player under contract in the championship with an FAQ, which there is a actual, like, the full PDF is embedded in the piece, and it makes for very fascinating reading. But it is essentially a step-by-step of, hey, we've been working on the CBA. We might not get there. The Players Association authorized a strike. And if you, let's say hypothetically, didn't want to go on strike, we would be happy to facilitate that. And here's how you would do it. And I think this is a very interesting move. Particularly the timing is fascinating, because to me I think this is a little bit more of a pressure test than an actual. I think it was a negotiation tactic, in my opinion. Of either we get the feeling that a bunch of players are going to break from the union and are desperate enough to where they would want to keep working, or we try to put enough of a grain of doubt in the union's mind that, hey, are your members on your team, basically, and are you all going to hold the line, to try to pressure them into signing. Because I think for them, yesterday felt a little bit like crunch time. USL Championship was dropping time-stamped press releases, like, on Wednesday night. So they were, I think they all thought that they were going to get a deal done. And this to me felt a little bit like the last shot of, how do we add enough pressure to get the Players Association to sign the deal as is? And I think it is a pretty big signal that, one, this document found its way straight into the hands of, like, a journal, like a very well-known journalist who was, like, people knew would get traction. And like that the Players Association didn't really blink about it, like aside from putting out their own statement of this is anti-union behavior. And yeah, so to me it was very fascinating in that it comes out essentially during negotiations last night, which to me it felt like a pressure move from the league rather than thinking, oh, we're gonna like be able to field a USL championship season without the Players Association or something like that, using only scabs.
Oh my goodness. And I'm sorry, but who wants to watch that, right? Yeah, I mean, you hit on it there, and so did the union, in saying the timing and the tone of USL's email is really interesting. I mean, they called it classic union busting. I call it interesting. Again, I'm not a labor attorney, but I do know that part of a finding potentially of union animus under the National Labor Relations Act is the timing of employer actions. And to drop something like this in the middle of negotiations or maybe shortly after any kind of union activity is, to me, highly suspect. Now,
yeah.
Again, that doesn't mean that it's going to lead to anything adverse. I don't know, but I'd like to think, though, that USL Championship, the headquarters, and the clubs, who this FAQ is apparently from all the clubs, I'd like to think all those folks combined have some of the best lawyers in the country on their team helping them, and surely helped author this piece of correspondence. The thing that I found the most interesting in this kind of FAQ is, where is it here? They talk about, of course, it's crossing the picket line. So it says, how can I cross a picket line and continue to work without being fined by the union? The answer from USL is, the USLPA may fine current members who choose to cross a picket line. If you wish to avoid that, you should resign your USLPA membership before you cross the picket line. Resignation of membership at that stage ensures that the union cannot fine or discipline you for crossing the picket line. If you wish to avoid that, you should. It's like, hang on, are you giving the union members legal advice? Like, you're opposing parties. Like, the wording to me was just insane. Like, I think there is a way to say that's informative rather than, like, inducing of some kind of action, right? Which, of course, that's why they say this is why the union is claiming this is classic union busting. But I just thought that was extraordinary. Like, I would not have written it that way.
Yeah, what's all of my like legal and compliance training for my corporate job is flooding into my brain of like right thinking and like don't put dumb shit in an email. I think this one for me, it's interesting that the end of it is all in bold, saying again, we're not urging you to remain a member or to resign. We're just informing you of your rights. But it's like, if you...
But you told me how to avoid a fine.
Right, and if you put it in plain language, it's like, well, yeah, they probably will fine you. And if you don't want to do that, like, if you don't want to get fined, here's how to not get fined.
It's like, you should resign. Like, it's just insane.
I do
like it would have been one thing to say, like, the only way to avoid a fine that we are aware of is to resign, not to say you should resign. Like, that to me is crazy. But anyway, it's just extraordinary. Those of you listening, absolutely read the piece. Jeff outlines it very well, but just the USL's own words for everyone to see, it's crazy.
Yeah, and we will put the link in the show notes for sure. This one was definitely like, we are certainly living in unprecedented times now. Like, just the the fact that
I just want this for one.
Just give me the precedented times. So this all coincides. Like, this story all coincide, and as we said, USLPA drops their statement on it, and it does seem like this is going to go to the 11th hour. Like, we will see just how long it takes before someone blinks. And I think the really fascinating thing is, I mean, there's a very real possibility that the strike that like the actual strike announcement comes like with players in the locker rooms at Lexington and Louisville. Like that, there's a very real possibility that the actual strike is just a straight up walkout of a like about to be televised game, which
one wonders if they're like, okay, turn the cameras away the way they do for like a pitch invader. Like, is it going to go that
where it's like
far?
the players just aren't coming out of the locker rooms, and like who knows, like it could get very, very spicy. That being said, I've talked before about the fact that I think these tactics from the league and the like tone from the Players Association do show that I think both parties understand that like this league is not like a strike is not good, right? Like
no,
for anyone,
the vast majority, if not all of these clubs rely on the actual matches to happen to make any money.
Yeah.
You know,
so like it will be very bad for the clubs if there is a strike. That being said, like I'm not suggesting that the Players Association should fold if they're not getting, because of the like the ambitions of USL and all this stuff. Like they absolutely should be held to something sensible in this agreement. Like the pro standard, the whole like pro rel question mark. How about pro standards? Like that's the
absolutely
like that is completely fair, and they should hold the line on it. And there's something about it that, I mean, I think you've shared as much too, like privately, is just, it just feels like there's a lot to lose here for them to not get it figured out.
Absolutely. I mean, part of this FAQ is the union gonna pay you if we don't play? And they're like, well, we don't know. And I do wonder, like, what does that mean? Like, because whether matches happen this weekend or not, players have bills, players have children. Like, what are we doing? So, and I would hate for them to have to fold for those reasons to like, get their scraps, if you will. Absolutely, though, you're right to bring up like pro rel. What about pro standards? Like, you need to like get your own house in order first before we start integrating the entire league system together, which we know pro rel, for all its good things, that's really fraught financially. So if you think you can swing that, then surely you can swing some of these things that the players are asking for, in my humble opinion. But also incredible in this is the suggestion that they would replace these workers and they intend to continue the season. So it's like, who's going to be playing? I mean, academy kids?
And even beyond,
child labor laws involved? What are we doing?
Kenny Hoban and the boys? I just like, who's going to be playing? And I would say crucially, given like how connected the fan base is with the players and like how much public support there is, I would argue like who's going to be watching? If there are going to be a lot of people who boycott USL, like if they are using scabs. And
then there are going to be a lot of people who are going to the first match ever, and they're like, what is this? This is trash.
Who are you people?
Like, why did you bring me here? Do you hate me? Like,
I think, did the NFL do this at one point? Get like they had like scabs or something, like that
wouldn't surprise me.
The replacements or something. I do think the NFL played or maybe part of a season with scabs. And it's like a joke. It's like, to this day, it's a joke. But anyways, like, I think that it'll be very interesting to see how things go in amongst all this. And speaking of the unprecedented times, before we get to any sort of like serious locomotive analysis ahead of the 2026 season, I think we have to address the fact that on trial during all of this with El Paso Locomotive, Cristo Fernandez, most known for his role as Danny Rojas in Ted Lasso, that hit Apple TV show, and he's trying to revive his like dormant footballing career with El Paso Locomotive and is on trial. This has been a bit of a saga. But can we talk about the fact that this was huge news? It's now gone, like, I mean, piece in the Daily Mail, piece in, it's like a tabloid thing now, like worldwide, and it's all this stuff. The club still has not actually really made any sort of announcement about it. Like,
other than that, they confirmed he's trialed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mad. What's really funny about this, in a weird way, is that we've just spent half an hour talking about the existential crisis that USL Championship faces. And yet, if you Google USL Championship right now, all the headlines are about Danny Rojas, aka Cristo Fernandez. So we just live in a clown world, obviously. But yes, amongst all of
this... Not to mention all the other horrors persisting, like...
Right. All the other horrors not related to sport, exactly.
Yeah.
Like actual horrors. Yeah, Cristo Fernandez. I mean, he's spotted at the preseason game against New Mexico United that we handily won, so that's nice. He played like half an hour or something like that. And yeah, it seems like he's trying to actually be a footballer. I mean, he was a footballer in his youth. Mm-hmm. I think he had some serious injury concerns that kind of derailed that, and then he pivoted to his acting and filmmaking career. And he's been obviously very successful with that. I mean, Ted Lasso is a great show. I love it. Yeah. I think it's fantastic. But, we're the cynical bunch, of course. But it rankles a little bit because it's like, what are we doing? Like, what? He's 35, right? Mm-hmm. He's an actor, primarily. Again, he played football in his youth, like half his life ago, right? So, like,
yeah, I think the knee injury happened when he was literally like 15, like
something like that. Yeah,
20 years ago was the last time he like seriously was playing. It would be like me, like trialing with the Toledo Mud Hens and being like, I played baseball.
Yeah, it's just, to me, it's like, okay, well, one, is this just a publicity stunt? I mean, that's got to be the first question, right? Because why would you do this otherwise? Two, if he's not up to scruff, if we don't sign him, then what serious signings did we forgo? What serious opportunities did we forgo to entertain this? And that's no hate to Cristo Fernandez. Again, like, fantastic actor. Love the show. It's just bizarre. And I don't know. It makes me worry a little bit about, like, the immediate future of the club if this is what we're doing. Like, I don't know. What's going on? Like, why would we do this? How did this even come to be? You know what I mean?
That's kind of my thing. And so I have a couple of thoughts. I'll save the one for sort of general roster conversation, because I agree. I worry that we've spent so much time and like energy around this that it may have distracted, and from just a sheer, like, of all of the clubs, like, why is he trialing with us? Like, I know he spent some time at Chicago Fire 2, maybe MLS Next Pro, like he was like maybe played a friendly,
which apparently Forward Madison denies, so I don't even know if that's real.
So maybe not. I don't know. Maybe that's all internet rumor. But my thought is, why would he choose to trial with us, like, versus anybody else? Maybe Junior is like friends with him from, maybe they met in LA. I don't know.
He is. I thought I saw someone say Cristo is a massive, like, LAFC fan, which, like, okay.
So maybe it's a Junior connection, and that's why. Because, if there's been like financial resources, all that stuff committed to this, then it starts to feel a bit goofy, right? Like, or if we're setting aside a spot because we might permanently sign him what
kind of what kind of wage is he commanding, right? When you have the union, like, arguing for the bare minimum. Like, it just, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's very...
Here though is my tinfoil. I have a tinfoil hat theory now that I'm going to hit you with. So it has nothing to do with the actual, like, the Danny Rojas thing.
Okay.
The Cristo thing. It has nothing to do with that being tinfoil. my tinfoil theory is, why have Locomotive put the brakes on? Because right before any of this news came out, like, a friend of mine was like hearing from sources that Locomotive was about to drop, quote unquote, the biggest news in USL.
Mm-hmm.
Cristo Fernandez being on trial at Locomotive does not cross that threshold, right? For me, I think signing him is the thing, right? Like, Danny Rojas playing like full time that's the story. Like, that's the big story, is if he's actually playing. Like Michael Jordan coming to the Birmingham Barons or whatever. Like, that's the story.
Right.
As like a sideshow. I'm not saying, and again, I'm not saying you get like serious playing time or anything like that. But my tinfoil theory is they are delaying this for some reason. And I can't put it together. And at first I'm like, man, the club is just like dropping the ball. Like if it's a publicity stunt, rake in the publicity. Like, take advantage of the publicity stunt. But they aren't doing the publicity stunt side of this, of the publicity stunt. And so I'm like, why are they doing this? And then with all of the strike conversation, I realized, are they delaying the signing of him? Because if they signed him, does he become immediately the poster child for the USLPA going on strike? And then you have a straight up famous actor in the USLPA who just went through a significant strike with SAG not 2 years ago or 3 years ago or whatever, whenever that all went down. And like, do you accidentally give the Players Association like a straight up spokesperson who's like good on camera, good with the media, like very likable, all this sort of stuff, that like hyper media trained, I'm sure, and all of that sort of stuff. So like, are they not signing him because they would be giving the Players Association like a silver bullet of, they sign like, they could record a thing tomorrow with, Cristo Fernandez talking about how improved working conditions for USL players is like the most important thing going on right now, and the league is fucked.
That is incredible. Wow.
Now I admit that is out there, and it just made me think, like, why are they dragging their feet so much on this? And that was just what came to mind, is they don't want to make Cristo Fernandez a member of USLPA.
So would he be a member of USLPA? Are you immediately a member by signing a standard player?
It's a good question. I mean, I think it's quite clear that everybody that is signed to a contract right now is, because I'm assuming there would have been separate communication of like, hey, you're not a union player, so like, you're good.
See, my theory is much more boring, and that is that they're not signing him because they don't know that they can actually rake in the publicity they want by playing a football match with him in it.
Yeah.
So maybe they think that the strike threat is more serious than it really is, or than that we're being led to believe.
Yeah. That being said, Cristo looks in good shape.
He does. He looks incredible.
He does look, physically, he looks in very good shape. So
yeah,
to his credit, it is. I know we talk about how this is a publicity stunt and all this stuff, and none of this is a commentary on Cristo the person, of course. Like,
sure,
like him going and chasing his dream and wanting to play and all that sort of stuff. Like, go for it. Like, that's completely fine. I think the concern on like, is the club spending the time or the resources like doing the stuff that will make the team better, versus like, are we just like looking for ways to try to get like a few more butts in seats that aren't related to just like making a good team, which is what put butts in seats for the first 3 seasons of existence. So
imagine that.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, it's been absolutely bizarro world for our club in particular, but also just USL Championship. I don't know. I mean, what is he, a midfielder? Like, do we even know what is he? What is Cristo Fernandez?
It's weird. I made the assumption that he's a striker, but that's just because Danny Rojas is a striker.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Yeah, no, I want
We need at least one more wide. We need
someone to rotate with Amando. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's insane. What do you think? Okay, like instinct. Answer instinctively. Like, one, are we gonna strike? Is there gonna be a strike? Is there gonna be a lockout? And two, are we gonna sign Danny Rojas?
I'm gonna fight my cynicism and say no strike, but it's gonna be close. I think we'll avoid it by a whisk.
Do you think that tomorrow's kickoff in Lexington will go on time?
I will say yes. There is a part of me that does not think so, but I will remain optimistic and say yes, we will.
Okay.
The season will start on time, and there will not be a player's strike. And those lawyers who are putting in the hard yards tonight it's all going to be worth it. I don't know. I'll go theory wise. Yes, we are going to sign him as soon as the strike is averted.
Yeah, I agree on both counts. I think we will play USL Championship football this weekend. Yeah, I think we'll hear something like in a really weird hour of the day that something's been agreed. What I hope is that the CBA is long enough to avoid this for quite some time.
Oh yeah, this had better be like a decently long agreement.
Yeah, so I will say yes, we will avoid a strike. And I don't know. I think I'm with you. Like, I think that whether we strike or not depends on whether we sign, whether we sign Cristo Fernandez. I think it's dependent on that. So I guess I will say yes, we will, because there's no way we do all this to not sell out the swap so people can come see Danny Rojas. And if we do strike, we might still open the swap and he'll just be on the concourse signing autographs. I don't know. Like, he's already a part of a union in SAG, so like he's covered. No, it's just wild. I don't know.
Man, well, since we've talked about specifically Cristo Fernandez, I feel it's appropriate time to talk about the roster construction for El Paso Locomotive for this year, the first year under Junior Gonzalez. We talked a little bit, I think, previously about the fact that Junior is gonna likely play something of a 4-3-3, or it's gonna look more like a 4-3-3. That's what he's played pretty much without deviation, kind of his entire career. All that being said, I guess it's worth talking about. We've talked about the outgoings for the most part, so we can talk about the incomings and who is new, like the new faces around, and then maybe just kind of how we feel about the structure overall. So Abraham Romero is the signing who comes in technically from Columbus, but he was actually at Colorado Springs last year as a goalkeeper. We've got, not a new signing, Noah Dolenmeyer returning from exile in San Antonio. And then Nicholas Cardona, one of the more recent signing, or one of the last two signings announced, who joins us from Miami FC, Puerto Rican left back, I guess he's listed at. He's sometimes played left back, sometimes played center back. And then Daniel Gomez, who joins us from Oakland, central midfielder. Carl Sante, who technically joins from FC Dallas, but spent last year and maybe even a couple of seasons at Phoenix Rising. Got a majority. He's listed as defensive midfield. Got a majority of his minutes last year at Phoenix at center back. Alex Mendez, which actually I would say one of the more exciting signings of the offseason, along with Rubio Rubin. But Alex Mendez joins us from Tampa Bay, technically, even though this one stings a bit because FC Juarez let him go to Tampa Bay and El Paso Locomotive paid a transfer fee to get him back from Tampa.
Yeah, interesting that.
So yeah, we paid for our own, for a Bravos player, third party, I guess. But then Rubio Rubin, like I mentioned, comes in from Charleston, who has to be, of all of the signings, like he is the marquee signing and is going to be the guy asked to do the business like up front and lead the line. And then Diego Abidia, which interestingly are our only real import, like technically speaking, in that all of these guys have been like US based more recently. And then this has not been updated with our most recent edition from Austin, because today, we added
Carlo.
Yeah, sorry, where did he go? Gosh, I don't.
Carloon.
Yeah, for Carlin. Yeah. So those are the additions. But yeah, everybody US based except for Diego Abidia, who joined from Atletico de San Luis, I think, in Mexico. And also interesting in that a lot of the other guys, like, a lot of like mid to late 20s. Rubio Rubin is 30, whereas Abidia is like just turning 20. He's like turning 23 this year.
Yep.
Yeah, a little bit on the younger side. And a little bit of a break from the overall approach here. But Mika, I mean, I think we've been vocal about the fact that we've felt that this offseason was a bit slow, particularly compared to, I think, when you compare it to the way that some of the teams around us have been moving, it's hard not to kind of be like trying to, doing the like keeping up with the Joneses of,
right.
Okay, all these other clubs are really moving in the transfer market. We've got Tampa Bay went absolutely crazy this offseason. Lexington turned into a straight up they're going to buy everybody good in USL.
And Boise went crazy. Of course they had to because they need the players, but
Boise's
still.
Boise in League One had a fantastic offseason. And it felt like there were just a lot of players out there that were available that Locomotive either didn't land or weren't the destination. And so in terms of how this roster is put together, it is now, after these last couple of additions, from a sheer depth perspective, we're now maybe one player away from sort of, a player at each position, a player extra at each position. But getting to this point of even just making up the numbers maybe feels like the big marquee sort of signings of how do we continually raise the level of this team. Those signings didn't really materialize outside of maybe Mendez and Rubin.
Yeah, it's tough because it's hard to know what a new coach will get out of these players. I mean, these might be players that are just diamonds in the rough, some of them, and are, may take their game to another level. I mean, we saw this with Christian Sorto, right? When he came in late in the season and was really an impact player for us. And sometimes it's just a change of scenery that's needed.
He's at San Antonio now, so.
Yeah, ouch. And so yeah, it's tough. I mean, I have been public that I feel like the roster construction has been a little underwhelming, but of course what matters is what happens on the pitch, and we've yet to see that. So we hope to see that obviously this weekend. But yeah, I think what really kind of was a little disturbing to the fans was all of the outgoings were so front loaded, and then we had to wait a while for the replacement, so it was very unclear for much of the offseason where this team was going. It does seem like with signing Farquharson literally today, or announcing it today anyway, that we seem to be at a decent spot in the roster as far as actual number of bodies is concerned. What I will say is that I do like that we've retained somewhat of a spine, maybe not a core, but a spine in Amando Moreno, Eric Cavillo, Palermo Ortiz, and Gabi Torres. However, we have lost quite a bit in Andy Cabrera, Jamali Waite, who I that's the biggest question mark for me is like, has he been replaced? Because I don't think we've ever seen a number 2 promoted in this way at El Paso Locomotive with Sebastian Moromoros presumably taking the gloves. I don't think it's going to be Romero. I don't know. I could be wrong, but
yeah, I think it could be just a bit of a battle over the number 1. What I definitely would not feel good about is if there's not a clear number 1 and it's like the fight is going on into the season, because that
right.
I think always causes,
like, if that's not somebody's job by like mid-April, like we should
yeah
absolutely.
If it's still like, if we're platooning goalkeepers, like not cup related, obviously you're going to rotate for cups and stuff like that, but just if in league games we are like, we'll just see who's in form, that I think would be a bad situation to be in. I hope there's a clear number 1.
Yeah, and Jamali, obviously, like, we predicted that because he was extraordinary in a very average team, and is, has hopes of a World Cup, if I'm not mistaken. I think Jamaica has made it, have they not? I don't know.
I mean, I'd be surprised. Everybody's in the World Cup, so.
That's true. But I mean, he's played for Jamaica and wants to continue to do so, so he's off to Rowdies. Frank DeRoma, who we may see on Saturday, left for Switchbacks. So those are 3 huge players for me that have left the club. And so it's just tough to know who's going to step up and replace that output, especially when it comes to Andy Cabrera, of course, with his explosion of goals. So with Rubio Rubin, he's 30 years old, like very experienced. He has to basically hit the ground running, or else we may be in trouble as far as goals are concerned. Amando Moreno as well, also 30 years old now. Beto Avila definitely showed some class in the season. I think maybe consistency has to be, the improvement for him. Yeah. The biggest question mark for me, of course, goalkeeper, but then also who's going to score the goals, because it's got to work like relatively quickly. Lest we lose even, lest there be even less interest in this team, but that's just the way that it goes.
And I will fact check myself. Jamaica has not yet qualified for the World Cup.
Yeah, I knew they were still like, there's a chance, right?
So they are in the World Cup qualification intercontinental playoffs, which there are 2 semifinals, March 26th. Jamaica has to play New Caledonia, which for those keeping track at home, that's in Oceania, which the naming on this is really crazy. Like, what Scotsman landed on a Pacific island and was like, reminds me of home.
Isn't that like a French penal colony?
I think it was. And they call it Caledonia, which I'm pretty sure Caledonia is like related to Scotland.
I think it is. But yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? Some Frenchman was joking around, apparently. And then Bolivia. So that is one semifinal. Bolivia versus Suriname is the other semifinal, which.
Is that in Bolivia?
So, no, these are like.
Or are they neutral sites?
They're in neutral sites. Jamaica plays New Caledonia in Zapopan, Mexico.
Okay.
And then Bolivia plays Suriname in. This is all in Mexico. Okay, so all of the qualifiers are in Mexico. But I was like, at first I was like, but yeah, Guadalupe and Zapopan, Mexico. Not exactly like they're not at the Azteca or something. And then the winner. Hold up. Wait a minute. This has got more spicy. So the winner of that semifinal, this is for 2 spots. Okay. So the winner of the Bolivia-Suriname semifinal plays the Democratic Republic of Congo for the 1 spot.
Okay.
Because the DRC has gotten a bye to that final. And then the winner of Jamaica New Caledonia plays Iraq. In the other. One of those, or 2 of those 4 will go to the World Cup, but that is crazy. I did not. Anyways, sorry, bit of a rabbit hole there. So yeah, I mean, I agree in terms of the outgoings. I think, from just a practical standpoint, the 2 areas of this team that really that do concern me a bit are either center back or central midfield, depending on how Junior is like deciding to use some of these guys, because I think unfortunately Palermo Ortiz last season showed he played a bit recklessly, I would say. And I think in a pairing, you know, like if our most, like if you go off of seniority or like name recognition, that sort of stuff, Palermo Ortiz and Tony Alfaro as a pair have shown that is like, there is not a lot of like discipline.
No, neither one of them is like the stopper. Like they both of like go on adventures, and we can't have that. We can't have both of them doing that.
And then the guy who got the most minutes at center back and was honestly like, and this is no shade to anyone, I just think he was genuinely good, was Kofi Chumasi, who is a center midfielder typically. Like he doesn't typically play center back. He was almost deployed there out of necessity. And Noah Dolenmeyer, in the limited minutes he got for Locomotive last season, played left back in like cup games and then got sent to San Antonio. So is he ready to be the number one guy? And then Carl Sante, even though he's listed as a defensive midfielder, got most of his minutes in a 3 at the back for Phoenix last year. So there's just a lot of question marks, because it's like either we're going to be extremely light at center back or extremely light in central midfield, and I can't tell which yet.
Right.
And I think finding the right balance early on is just going to be very crucial, because the one, like, whichever area of that we are less solid in is also going to impact the fact that I am worried about output offensively, because Rubio Rubin, capable of it certainly, and didn't get the minutes at Charleston that he would have like expected, I'm sure, last year. Amando Moreno, quite good season come the end of last year, but he kind of scored his goals in like bunches, and then would go kind of long like parts of the season not scoring, and it was kind of like when he was firing, Andy Cabrera was not, and vice versa. And Beto Avila like never really got going from like a just like rhythm and like a pure like output perspective, and obviously not understanding what some of the, you know, Abidia and these other like new signings can do. I worry that there's kind of like a clear like first choice front three, and then maybe a bit of a drop off, like, and in Amando's case, there is no one behind him on the left side there. Like there is no one else really to play there aside from Ricky Ruiz, maybe in like I almost think of him as like left-sided Jeremy Frimpong from Liverpool, of like when Mo Salah's out, like Frimpong plays attacker, and it's clear that that's not like, you know, it's not like he's serviceable, but not off. It's it's not like he's not an attacker. He's a, you know, a left back. So anyways, like kind of this is where the construction starts to feel a bit awkward is where I would say. Like
it's interesting because I feel like we're betting a lot on different things. So like with this little depth chart that I just threw together today, I mean, like I think I agree with you. I think it seems like there's like a front three that's nailed more or less: Moreno, Rubin, Avila. Mm-hmm. But then after that, it's like youth. So it's like you're betting on like 2 30-year-olds, which 30 is not finished. Don't get me wrong. It's just like,
no, for sure.
It's just like you have to be producing like immediately at that age because you're in your prime. But then if they're not, then the alternatives are youth, like players that are coming from youth teams. I mean, Abidia, he scored goals in like U21, U19 sides. Farquharson was at an MLS Next Pro side, looked good there, but still, it's and it's professional, but it's a different level, right? So I feel like we're like making two very different bets on our attack,
Mhm.
or we're just hoping that Gabby Torres can just be a monster from anywhere on the pitch, and he might do, you know.
That is the X factor. Is like Gabby Torres
Mhm.
still on the team. He's gonna be there playing football.
He's our Soboslai.
He was Soboslai before Soboslai became Soboslai.
Exactly. No, he invented it.
That's perfect.
Absolutely. But I mean, I think
Gabby Torres cornrows when.
Oh my goodness. I think you hinted at it at the top of this kind of conversation of like, well, we do have this exciting player that we did pay money for, even though he was once pretty much on our books in Mendez, who got a lot of appearances in Liga NOS. Well, actually, I don't know that it's called Liga NOS anymore. I think it's just like Liga Portugal. Talk to me about Mendez. Like, what do we think of this? Because like he seems to me like a number 10 type almost. So I don't know. Do we build around him? Does he become like a fourth attacker? What are we thinking for this guy?
I really love the idea of, and I'm probably getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but yeah, in terms of his production and like the way that Junior talked about him specifically in being a guy who can be a playmaker and a goal threat from midfield, I'm kind of thinking in the mold of how Dylan Maris was deployed, like when Mark played 4-3-3.
Yeah.
Where you surround him with the guys who are going to put the yards in, and Mendez has the ability to either break lines dribbling or passing, or if he's hitting from distance as well. So yeah, he is a really exciting prospect, and I do honestly think like having a player like that, and if we go back to a 3, that is probably the thing that excites me the most about Junior Gonzalez being here, is just going back to a midfield 3, because I think the personnel we've had have been begging for that, and we've been in this like back 3 midfield 2 situation for just ever and ever. And so I really do like the idea of having a true 6 with a like a true 8, and then Mendez like in that most advanced of the midfield 3, like being able to have some impact going forward and connect. Because I think this is the thing, ultimately what it goes back to, and this goes back, I think, Wilmer's side suffered from it, Clarehout side's definitely suffered from it, and even back to Hutchinson probably, but the level of connection between sort of phases of play, the last couple of seasons we've missed it a bit. We got to the point where we were so direct that the only way that we played forward was we played it from the center backs out to the wing backs, forward to the forwards, and that was how we played. If we even did that, like oftentimes it'd be center back to forward.
Yeah.
And so what I'm hoping for with this structure is that just to be able to see a little bit of us trying to play people again, like, and get the ball on the ground and actually try to play some football. Like that is the thing that excites me about Junior's like approach.
Yeah.
Because I think we had situations where some of the managers got in these situations where they start to panic a bit and like, do we have the quality to be able to do X, Y, and Z, or this league demands that we don't play on the ground, or we have to be more direct, or we have to like, you got to fight fire with fire. And I think like most people who watch this club like know that the best times they had watching this team were when we had guys who could play football and get the ball on the ground and possess the ball, break lines.
Yeah, I mean the best moments of last season were from our technicians. Your Gabby Torres's, your Frank de Roma's, what have you. So no, I absolutely agree.
Give and I'll say this too. I know like Eric has been at this club forever, so he's been on the end of a lot of stick from us at various times, just by virtue of he's been here to receive it. And give Eric a 6 to play with, and like a true like playmaker to link up with. And I do think we will see like the best of Eric Calvillo. We've always talked about the fact that like he needs the ability to like go play.
I mean,
because when he's just tracking
to the
back,
goal to shoot.
That too. When if he can get unlocked a little bit, it would be nice to see him operate with a little bit more freedom to just play.
Which is why I do hope that Carl Sante is earmarked for the 6, because if he can do that job, then that opens up, between him and Tomasi, I guess that opens up more options to let other folks go forward and do their thing. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm glad that we filled out a little bit. That's what 23 players signed, and I'm sure there's youngsters that are in the offing that I mean, I don't know. They might be the scabs. Who knows, guys? We'll see. Colorado Springs. Is this a good matchup for us on opening night? Like, or is it like really awful? Like, I don't know.
I mean, it's a bit of an interesting one because like Colorado Springs had a pretty poor, like they had a really poor season last year. Because where did they actually end up? They were, they finished 8th, and I guess that meant that they just made the playoffs. Oh, and that's right. There is an alternate universe where Kyle Vassell, because he signed for Switchbacks at the end of last season, and there is a world in which Kyle Vassell like knocks Tulsa out in the first round of the playoffs, which would have been crazy. But anyways, I don't love it, because I will say, in terms of the way that teams have moved, Colorado Springs have, I think, added some key pieces, and in particular to get on opening day, first game of the new season, Frank DeRoma returning as an opposing player to the swap. I don't love. I'll say that.
Yeah, that because I don't love it either, and I don't know what to make of. I mean, I just feel like Colorado have done some bits here with their business. I do think the Kyle Vassell is a good punt, like, because he's done it in this league before. I mean, he's not that far removed from, if I'm not mistaken, like a goal every other game season for San Diego. So good on them. They brought the one lad from Louisville who's decent, whose name escapes me right now.
Adrian Perez.
That's the one.
Which it's interesting. Him and Vassell are both Loyal alum as well. So
okay, got it.
Reuniting.
That. They also brought in Patrick Berner, who I remember playing for OGC Nice. Like,
yeah,
he's got a boatload of experience in the top league of France. So like, they've done some bits and bobs here. I'm sure actually that his time overlapped with Alexi Bossetti. Pour one out for a real one. But this is a sort of USL, 6 degrees of USL. Right. But yeah, I mean, this is someone who's played in like, Europa League, Champions League qualifying, and so that's an interesting signing as well.
And on the Adrian Perez point, his season last year, I think, ultimately impacted by some injury stuff. So certainly not the output that he typically has. The season before, he was like assist city. And so I think having what they've done, at least from my perspective with Colorado Springs, is a lot of these additions up top, like Vassell, Corey Bennett, Adrian Perez, like these sort of attacker, like it's looking to solve what had been kind of the big issue with Colorado Springs last year, is they just couldn't score. Like, no one could put the ball in the back of the net. They would do all of this good buildup. And I know I'm like, I've always enjoyed watching, like, between like Tejada and Hanya, like these are some guys who they can be very dangerous. and they just weren't at the sharp end. Like, they just weren't getting it done.
Right.
And so they went out and got a bunch of guys who, when in doubt, they score goals. They've also added some youth. Like, there are some genuine youngsters like hanging around, like kicking around the squad.
Right.
And then, yeah, the Frank DeRoma signing is just really sticking in my craw. As I say.
Yeah, that he would have been a nice option to have in a presumably a 3.
Yeah.
This season, but alas.
That was between him and Gabby Torres. There were so many times last season, and it's so funny. Like, talking about last season, it is really strange still to me that Locomotive finished 4th in the West, because I'm just like, how on earth did that happen? But there were so many games that I remember, like, Frank DeRoma is just like in midfield, just fighting for his absolute life.
Right. And I mean, he was decent in the duel, like, for his size.
Oh, for sure.
He snaps into some tackles.
Yeah. So no, he is one that I don't love. I don't love coming up against him. There's a lot of you know.
I don't like the narrative there. Yeah, exactly.
Now, that being said, the flip side with Frank is that he is also easy to wind up.
That's true.
So maybe he rush of blood to the head and all that. But I think also interesting for Colorado Springs is they still have Christian Herrera, which I don't think there will be plenty of Locomotive fans who will remember him at goalkeeper. But they've also added Colin Shuttler, who Orange County, like, very highly rated goalkeeper, I would say, and just had some maybe like consistency issues or whatever. So it does seem like they're trying to create a bit of competition there. And then defensively, I feel like it's kind of the same, the usual suspects, but they've added Talon Maples from New Mexico United to a group that has, Duke Lacroix, which I think he is, a very familiar face to Locomotive fans, and a very solid option. And then Matt Mahoney, who has been, I feel like he's been playing for Switchbacks since before they were even a thing. So, but yeah, so a lot of familiar faces on Switchbacks, but it is with the incomings, it does feel like quite a different prospect, particularly from an attacking side. And that'll be, I think that'll be what to watch for in terms of like, how are these new signings gelling with their structure?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I hope that we see it on Saturday.
I hope it happens.
I hope it happens. I hope it comes to pass.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we'll obviously, who knows, maybe Phil will be doing like a voice note addition to this podcast before it drops, because something huge happened. But yeah, that's the state of play right now, isn't it?
It sure is. Yeah, I have been trying to keep a side eye on.
Do you have like a Google alert set up?
I don't. I've essentially been using the USL show Discord as a Google alert of, I'm sure something will happen in here. But yeah, it's
Fair.
Nothing as of yet. So maybe we'll wake up to it. That's been happening to me a lot recently, where I go to sleep and I wake up to something crazy happening. Right. Like, oh yeah, sure. Well, cool. No, I mean, all things considered, like, the start of a new season is always exciting because, like, hope springs eternal. There is, like, everything to play for. And this one has just this added layer of, like, we got to get through the red tape to get to the actual game. I think it's safe to say that the Players Association and the players, like, deserve what they're asking for. I hope the deal gets done. And if the season were to continue with replacement players, I think it's safe to say that is not something that we would be talking about on this podcast, just to prepare people for if that eventuality happens, like if that is something that comes to pass. That is not something that I am interested in discussing or watching. Just so just so anybody, if there's any confusion there. Yeah, we're back. We'll be back to talk more as long as the season occurs, and hopefully we'll have an update soon. But if not, then I guess we'll see everybody Saturday, and until then, stay loco.